Welcome to the Startup Addict podcast. I'm Nick Swinburne. I've been starting companies for over 20 years now. I've had some big successes, like Zappos.com, and lots of failures. Regardless of the outcome, I'm still convinced there's nothing more addicting than trying to turn ideas into reality.
Welcome to episode 8 of the Startup Addict. Today we're going to be talking about starting a business.
Starting a business.
Yes. And
believe it or not, that was take 4 of the intro. That's why Dennis was holding back a chuckle there.
Yeah.
I thought it was the coffee.
It's
really
coffee,
got him,
yeah.
like, hype.
It's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, we've actually been sitting here. You guys have only been listening to us for about 15 seconds, but we've been sitting here for about 5 minutes trying to get that
intro
tough
going.
Intro down of welcome to episode 8.
Nailed it.
Done.
So we've mostly talked about things we've done in the past or hypotheticals, or lately we've gotten into philosophy of random things.
Yes.
But when we started the podcast, one of the things we wanted to do was talk about businesses as they come up and as we work on them here. So today we were going to try to take one of those companies and kind of have a list of questions that we can go over, and then potentially in the future do it for different companies. And I actually think it'd be fun one day if we had no warning and we just got given an idea and we had to go over what would we do, not because what we would do is right or what anyone else should do, or would turn into a good business, but I think it'd be interesting to hear a thought process that had like no preparation and just straight, here's an idea. So if anyone's got an idea,
creation exercise.
Yeah. So if anyone's got an idea for a random business, post them in the comments or shoot us a message, and we might take a stab at it. Dennis can't stop laughing because Dennis has been suggesting suggesting business ideas for the last half hour. This episode might completely fall apart. Dennis is still mad because he wanted a coffee. Well, I said, does anyone want coffee? And Julio said no, and Dennis said, I'll take a sippy cup, which I took to mean, no, I don't want any more coffee. And then I got here, and he was pretty let down that he didn't get a coffee.
So we had to go split skis.
Yeah, apparently a sippy cup means, I'll take a small of whatever you're having.
Yeah.
But no one else in the world knows that. So
now we do.
Yeah, now we do. So maybe sippy cup coffee will be the business the hypothetical business we'll talk about.
Baby coffee.
Coffee baby.
Coffee for babies. See, they're just rolling off the tongue.
Yeah,
write that one down.
And if you listen to the last episode, you'll know that Julio will be the bartender.
Wow.
Yes,
that'd be cool.
Julio.
All right, so enough nonsense. We apologize for
our creativity
the last few episodes. Okay, so one of the ideas we're working on, which is kind of in its infancy, even though it's almost a teenager, is speed quarters. So
how does that idea come about?
Well, first of all, let's go over what speed quarters is.
Oh, yeah,
because apparently we're from an old generation.
Yeah, we tried to explain that the other day. And,
is it an app?
Yeah. The two girls that work here, they were like, well, that sounds more like, and they're like, no, speed quarters has been around.
Yeah. Apparently, how old are you?
I'm 35. Yeah,
apparently anyone under the age of 35, speed quarters is a completely foreign concept.
Yeah. All the time.
But when I was in college, it was a daily activity. Speed quarters was a big deal. I mean, I remember when I left the dorms early, my freshman year, I moved into a studio apartment in Isla Vista. I was down in UC Santa Barbara, and I had a big shared balcony, like not a exterior balcony, like a balcony where you climb up the staircase. I guess a landing. I had a big shared landing, and so because I was the only one that wasn't in the dorms anymore, I would a bunch of friends would come over, and all we would do is just set up tables out there and just play speed quarters all day long, and it was awesome. And the thing about speed quarters is quarters is basically you take a quarter and you bounce it into a cup. So speed quarters is taking that individual game and turning it into a little more action-packed group game. So you might sit at a table, say there's 8 of you at a table. 2 people, there'll be 2 cups and 2 quarters. So people directly across from each other will start with a cup and a quarter, and when you bounce your quarter into the cup, you pass it to the left. And what you don't want to have happen is you don't want both cups to end up in front of you. So if you keep missing and everyone around the table is making it, the cup's getting closer and closer and closer, and all of a sudden, person next to you, to your right, makes the shot before you've made yours. You have both cups in front of you, and now you pound your beer. That was how we played in college, and you could get it complicated. And you could put other cups around it, so if you accidentally bounced a quarter in another cup, you have to drink that one before you can keep going. But I always thought that it was, even though it was a drinking game, it felt like something with a little more potential, because it's hard to explain, but it creates real tension, and you watch people, and as the quarter's getting closer, you just start panicking, your hands start shaking, you're bouncing the thing wrong, everything goes off because you feel this I've got to hurry up. So it mimics the sport in that way. And even as a spectator, it's somewhat fun. Usually, if you were sitting around watching other people play drinking games, it wasn't that fun.
Yeah. But
speed quarters, at least there's things you can root for, and you can help as a crowd. You can help get on the person who's in danger of getting caught. You can contribute to. You can heckle them and make them more nervous. So I always really liked that. And when I got out of college, I missed it. So for Zappos, we moved to Las Vegas in 2004, and in 2005, I decided to host the first World Series of Speed Quarters.
So what were the steps in setting that up?
That was we need to play Speed Quarters. We should. I think we were having parties at our house, and we got people playing quarters, and it was reminded you, this is a great group activity, and it's fun, and blah 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 blah. So I think the first thing I did was got the domain, and I don't remember if I had WSOSQ or World Series of Speed Quarters or speedquarters.com. Got the domain, made a logo, which was basically Speed Quarters written in a font with World Series. Actually, no, I had a hand that was holding a quarter as if it was about to bounce it. And then I had to go and I had to find a bar. And this, wasn't going to be mostly people I knew. But I went and found a bar. So there was a sports bar in Henderson. I don't remember the name of it. And I went to them and I said, hey, they had nice wooden tables. And hey, we want to put this event on, the World Series of Speed Quarters. And they were like, okay. I wasn't really asking for much. All I was asking for was, can we, film? Because I was introduced to a guy who did film production, and he was intrigued by the idea. My buddy Farner, it was a friend of his. I don't remember, and Farner, John, went to Santa Barbara with me, and so he was familiar with Speed Quarters, and I don't remember how. So he saw the potential in it, so he mentioned it to a friend. The friend's like, come out and film it, and maybe we could pitch it to a TV station or something, right? And so then I called a couple of friends, and we need commentators, right? So we set up a commentary booth, and we had two commentators, Buddy Jones, who was from Santa Barbara as well, and then I think Dr. Vic, who was my chiropractor who invested in Zappos, who at that point had come out to work at Zappos, was the other commentator. Then we needed a referee. So called my buddy Swinney, who was also from Santa Barbara. So,
So he got a ref outfit and the whole
He had a ref, he had
whistle,
looked like a Foot Locker employee, and he was out there. He had a whistle, yep. And then
wait, can you get disqualified from quarters?
Well, I don't remember. You're not allowed to move the cup. So so sometimes you just get rattled and you just fuck with the person's cup to the right of you because you don't want them to make it. So you push their cup out of the way. So that was when you'd get a stern warning from the referee. But no, asked a bunch of people from Zappos came. A bunch of friends from home flew out for it, and then other people I'd met in Vegas. I wasn't sure what to expect. The bar said, is there required drinking? And we're like, no, there's not required drinking, but it was encouraged. But so we because of legal rules, we couldn't require that you had to drink the beer in the middle because the bar had the rule, hey, if someone's too drunk, and we shouldn't be serving them anymore, and they're playing a game where they now have to pound a beer, we can't have that.
So just strongly suggested. Yeah,
well, we were pretty confident that getting people to drink was not going to be one of our challenges.
Yeah.
We put it on, and it was fun. It was a really good event. John's wife, I don't know if she was his wife or girlfriend at the time. This was in 2005. She won. She went to Santa Barbara also. So Santa Barbara was representing pretty hard in this tournament.
That wasn't the Brooklyn Cyclone, was it? The lady who won?
No.
All right. Because I have my eye on the review that someone.
Oh, really? Nice.
The Brooklyn Cyclone.
That's funny. So that was so we set up a booth, and so the film guys did. So participants could go and just basically almost like a confessional in the real world or something, right? They could just sit there and bullshit. And some people just went in there and laughed, and some people went up and made these like these personas for speed quarters. And
Yeah, this dude says one of his highlights was finding the confessional booth, in quotes, where you get to talk privately to the camera, walking in and ranting in a lousy Dockney accent how my dad lost his eye playing speed shillings. Yeah. God, we gotta find that tape. That'll be fun.
Yeah, no, it was fun. So we posted this to YouTube actually after the event, and in 2005 we had about 35,000, 38,000 views, and then it got taken down because the film guys had put a song in the ending, which was copyrighted, and so when YouTube later swept through everything and let the record labels come in and so they froze it, so you can't see it anymore. You can still search for it; it's still there. But I finally tracked down the film guy, and he said he's mailing a copy, so we should be able to take that music out, repost it. So that was in 2005. I'm not sure exactly around what time. And there was a small entry fee to play. There was a cash prize if you won.
This guy doesn't say how many people showed up. How many people showed up?
I don't remember. I want to say there was probably 50 or 60 participants.
Was it all
and then a packed bar just watching.
It was a word of mouth then? You never really
Word of mouth, yeah. I mean, it worked. That was at a ton of people, and then, I knew a bunch of people from college or home and people I'd met in Vegas. What was interesting, though, was how much suspense there was at the final table. Like, there was a guy, Jeff, who lost. So where you can have controversy is if the quarters land right around the same time, right? Like, and is it, my quarter was inside the cup, but yours hit the bottom of the cup before, so did I catch you or am I safe? And I remember there was like one guy someone threw a quarter across the table at someone else, and there was little fights, little arguments breaking out. But in the
what did the winner get?
The winner got a couple $100,
okay.
I think, and a trophy. And at the end, I remember it's on the video, but from what I remember, either she won by just making the quarter right before the other guy did. Yeah. It was like pretty good, fortunate, because it's like in slow motion. The film crew got both cups, and it's like this crazy ending that actually happened. Yeah,
had a replay.
But what I remember is the crowd cheering, and like everyone's drunk, and it's a full bar. But I remember people just being like into it, right? And so I think I was inspired at the time by World Series of Poker. Wasn't a big poker player, but I thought like World Series of Poker, World Series of Speed Quarters. So then we moved from Vegas. I thought I'll do this every year. And then we moved from Vegas back to California the next year. So we ended up doing the next event in 2007. But I feel like it was probably early in 2007, just by the time we got back and got around to doing it. We did it at Bayside Sports Bar on Union Street in San Francisco. And we had two UFC fighters, Chris Lieben and Ed Herman, as the judges. And that time we did it. So the first tournament, we just basically set everyone up at tables of 8. And you just played until there was a winner, and then you'd advance. Or it might even have been the top 2 advance, and we just kept whittling down the number of tables, kind of like you would in poker. In San Francisco, I think we had the layout of the bar. We didn't have as many big tables. It was either that or we had too many people signed up. So we went more to a group stage, round-robin format, almost like soccer. And so we created the head-to-head model. So you would sit at a little 2-top table across from someone. So if say the 3 of us and one other person are in a group, we're gonna play each person in our group head to head, and then based on that, we're gonna seed people, and then I don't remember what happened. I don't know if we took the top seed or the top 2 seeds and they went to the elimination rounds or what we did, but they so that round was the head to head rounds were either alternating shots, who would make the most out of 10, or the first to 10. I can't remember which one. But that model worked too. And then that another fun event. The place wasn't set up as big, and we didn't have the same size commentary booth. I mean, the first tournament, the commentary booth looked like a legit commentary booth. Like there was a backdrop and there was a table, and they were like super into it and funny guys. And the second one was more. We filmed it with the film guys, and it was let's edit this afterwards and add commentary afterwards, I think was the approach at the time, because of the noise and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So after that, so now we got the fully edited version from before. and we filmed the second event, and the guy's name was Eric Nielsen, I believe. So he lived in LA. So he set up he's like, I got some meetings for us. So we went down to Fox Sports. This is in 2007. We went into Fox Sports and into the studio, and we pitched him on having a weekly World Series of Speed Quarters show on cable. I had like a serious discussion about it and showed him the first video and all that. And
Yeah.
I can vaguely picture being in that office. But I can't really remember what happened. Like it wasn't like get the hell out of here, but it wasn't this is a no-brainer.
How do you pitch that to Fox?
I don't remember. And I don't remember if we ran into issues of it was a drinking game and that was kind of weird, or just we got enough on our plate type thing. But whatever it was, looking back, the fact that we got into that meeting was
some
encouraging in and of itself. But after that, so we stopped. The film guys lost interest in the project, and I don't remember why. I think it just got busy, so we just never always. We'll do it next year. We'll do it in a little bit. We'll do it in a little bit. Just never ended up putting on another event. Things get older and people have, we had our son. We had our son in 2008. So it was probably
just a little.
Yeah, little things pop up.
Things to get in the way of Speed Quarters.
Yeah, damn, you look.
So from time to time, I would go and I would check like the trademark, or I would look at the domain. And at some point, I lost the domain. I think I had the domain registered through Network Solutions or something, right? And I no longer use the email because I was using GoDaddy for everything, and I just all of a sudden it was I let it expire. Yeah. So I guess it was, I don't know if it was early this year or late last year, I just started thinking about it again, and I was like, I had talked at one point last year. I talked to this guy Jose. He was running the Warriors Community Foundation, and they have a poker tournament every year. I remember. And he was like, hey, we should do something smaller that would attract like a younger crowd, right? We want the younger, the Warriors poker tournament raises a ton of money. Like, I don't know, it's in the millions, like in one night, right? It's expensive, and they have a ton of people. It's really nice, and it's at the St. Regis, and it's cool. And there's a player at each table playing, and it's a great time, but it's pretty expensive. Yeah. And like most people can't afford to play there. And he was saying, if we could develop something that was a little more fun, targeted a younger demographic, then we can get them used to participating in Warriors Foundation events, and over time, maybe they'll, those events will grow, or they'll grow into the poker tournament role. He's like, oh, that's cool. We should do a fucking Speed Quarters tournament.
His eyes light up when you said that?
He was like, usually people have a puzzled look when you talk about a Speed Quarters tournament, but he was like, okay. He left the foundation. I think he went to eBay like pretty soon thereafter. And then at Nachoria one night, we were talking about, we have some slow nights during the week, and Burlingame, by 9 o'clock, Burlingame's pretty quiet on most nights. And so I don't remember if it was Jim or someone else came up with the idea of having a beer pong night.
Yeah, we did that for Cinco de Mayo like last year, I think. Yeah.
So they had a beer pong tournament there, and it went pretty well. And, but that involves rearranging the furniture and it's funny, actually, after we had the World Series Speed Quarters in 2005, so up at that point, beer pong we played it differently. You played on a ping pong table, and you put a cup, like a paddle in from the edge and the paddle in from the back, and there'd be 4 cups on a table, and you'd be playing ping pong. You're trying to hit it in the cup, and if you hit the cup, they take a sip. If you get it in the cup, they pound the beer. And then this, the popular form of beer pong came along at some point. And so I remember these guys in Vegas put on the World Series of beer pong. And I always thought, man, that was inspired by the World Series of Speed Quarters. It was a couple years later, but they did a casino outside of town. They had a little bit more of a way for people to qualify or at least register from far away. People flew in and they stayed at like
I made the mistake.
Any reason to stay in Vegas.
There was this one dude who I think it was a Christmas party that I had with my friends. It was at least 2 years ago, and we're with my friends from like high school and stuff like that. We're pretending we're like really good because we play basketball. So how different can it be? Just making a little. He schooled us so bad. I mean, he couldn't miss. He was just like boop, boop, so good. I was like, damn.
Sleeper.
His name's Marshall. He's super fucking good. I was like, damn, bro, what'd you do in college? It's like, just play beer pong all day.
We went out to Denver a couple years ago. They were at a bar and they had
the electronic version.
Beer pong machine. Yeah.
I beat you on that one. I remember that. That was local. I was
pretty
sober
sweet.
though during the time there.
What's crazy is there was no beer pong. So it's weird how these drinking games seem to like, it's your generation. So like Speed Quarters, if you go on YouTube and search for it, there's not a whole lot that's less than 10 years old. Like it's just like at some point Speed Quarters just dropped off. So I thought, okay, here we've got a historical sport. We've got a precedent.
It's got a legacy.
Untapped.
There was
industry.
a world championship 12, 13 years ago.
You're gonna knock on the door, pull
And
the guy,
10 years ago.
pull guys out of retirement.
Yeah. Right. So you talk about, I want a brand that has like some, you can start a brand, or I knew a guy who acquired a brand, right? Brand Derby jackets in San Francisco. And I always thought, man, that was a pretty good idea. There was people who were like nostalgic for it and like, oh man, I had one of those growing up, or oh, my dad had one of those. And, and he had like built-in imagery, right? I mean, he had like Eazy-E used to wear that jacket, and like there was one of like Clint Eastwood a long time ago wearing it, and all these things. And I'm like, man, he got like instant heritage, right?
Yeah.
Whereas when you start a new brand, you're trying to build something up. So now the heritage for Speed Quarters only exists for about 50 people or 60 people. But hey, you need a story.
Yeah.
And there was in Las Vegas 13 years ago the World Series of Speed Quarters, and it's coming back. So
I remember you bringing it up though to me after I think you had watched like a dart event,
yeah, so there was the on BBC America they have the Premier League darts.
and then you sent it over. I think sent us a video or something where just the hype around the crowd and just how it involved and like how it felt like a major sporting event. And I think that's where it was.
Dude, it was a major sporting event. And like in England, in the Premier League darts, I just flipped channels one day, got to the show. It's like an arena
Yeah.
full of people
Oh, those guys are
watching someone
amazing.
play darts on a stage.
I don't know how they do it.
Dude, and then the crowd is like cheering and singing as if they're at a soccer game. I'm like, this is amazing. But it got me thinking again, like, okay. And what I thought from that was not that we could fill an arena, but like, okay, if you can take something that most people could do, it's not like really based on like athleticism or years and years of, well, darts is, but something where you could, in theory, just start playing. Yeah. Low equipment cost, no real barrier to entry, and a social game. I might be the only person, but I was like, Speed Quarters makes perfect sense as this. So then I thought, okay, do I still have the domain? I looked, I didn't have the domain, so I had to go buy that, which sucks. I think it cost like $2,000. And then I refiled my trademarks, and then what else did I do? Well, then I just started thinking, okay, what would we do, right?
Yeah.
And so I guess a difference between then and now would be back then I was just thinking I want to hold this event. I just want to put on this event because I want to have a good time with a bunch of people I know, and just it'll be a good party.
Yeah.
And it's funny that we have Speed Quarters at the center of it. And maybe I was thinking once a year, but if I was thinking anything, I was thinking maybe once a year we'll have a party, a Speed Quarters party. Other than the aberration of the trip to Fox Sports. So this time around I was coming from a different angle and thinking, okay, I've seen darts, I've seen poker, and I still think Speed Quarters is a diamond in the rough. Like, there's above and beyond the it's a drinking game. I think this could be pretty good. You see these, you read articles about like, are there sports that are perfect for streaming or social media? And I started thinking, man, like, yes, like little highlight. You could picture little highlight clips of the quarter, and you could picture challenges that would go viral, and you could picture like, crowd shots of the crowd going crazy, and like drama of like someone almost getting caught and making it the last minute. And then, because the problem is if you're about to get caught and you make it, well, now there's a ton of pressure on the person to the left of you because all of a sudden they just got the quarter and you're right next to them. So I think there's something here beyond just an annual party. So we thought, okay, well, what would the model be? And so I figured, okay, we need live events, right? I mean, it's a great participant sport, and I think it's a good spectator sport. So we need to figure out what's the point of these live events. Are we doing them? In a restaurant, a bar, or are we doing them for streaming, like to be televised? Because we still haven't made a decision, right? The pros and cons of each are, okay, we do them in a bar. It's a festive atmosphere. People come. It's a familiar situation. We could, in theory, have events all over the country in bars. We could build a system for qualifying and having satellite tournaments and regional qualifiers and all that stuff leading up to the final event. And then there's also the approach of, well, if we think that, streaming or social media, like this could be part of Twitter's sports series or, YouTube channel, whatever, then we would think, okay, well, maybe it's more we build an arena, right? And so you're used to looking at it a certain way, and we have all the cameras built in, and we build up the characters. And so maybe we don't have the whole country playing on this video, but we've got our, whatever it is, 64, 128 people.
Yeah.
And we really go in depth on those people. It's like the first season of The Ultimate Fighter, like you cared because like you knew them, right? And so
there's so many ways you can do that.
Yeah, you create this thing, and you start a fantasy league where you have people can tune in and pick their favorite players. And we have rules of like how many shots do they make, how many shots do they miss, how many people do they get out, like whatever. Or maybe it's a combination of the two. And so to be honest, that's where we are with that at this point. We haven't really come up with a decision. And then we thought, okay, and then how do you? What I've started to do recently is I realized in the past because all these ideas were separate. And so a lot of it you were duplicating work and you were saying like, well, let's keep that separate. That's not true. Either keeping it separate or trying to just combine things that don't make any sense being combined, right? But then I thought, okay, well, what else would make quarters exciting? And it's prize money, right? If people are just playing for nothing, that's fine. But if we could make it like a lucrative sport, we're not talking. It's not going to be competing with the NBA, but you could, if we could offer $10,000 prizes and enough for people to feel like, yeah, if I invest some time practicing this or getting myself out to this event, there's a payoff, right?
That's true because there's only so much drama that's involved with having to avoid drinking a beer or pounding a beer.
Yeah,
already picturing recruiters going to sororities and fraternities.
Yeah, right. And so maybe there's I don't know, but like you said, maybe there's qualifying through events, maybe there's qualifying through video submissions, and then we have to find a way of verifying it, and just one of those. Maybe we have a brand manager that's just bombing around the country on a quest to find the next great quarters player.
Yeah, what a terrible job, going to party to party.
Oh man, the one thing I said, I remember talking about this with my buddy Spitz, like who went to Santa Barbara too. I don't know how, we probably talked about it a number of times over the years, of like, God, if only we were younger, wouldn't it be a great job to just get a big ass SUV that just said speed quarters on the side, and your job was to just travel from college to college to college and find speed quarters players and promote the brand and that, which, to be honest, if anyone's listening, that's probably a position that might become available soon. And actually what we are,
Jim at luchaventures.com.
Yeah, we are going to need a brand manager and regional managers and all that stuff for this once we get it going. So you can reach out through the fatedbrands.com website.
Oh, my bad.
Jim's email is just
blowing up right now.
Dude, I got the.
Why is everyone emailing me about speed quarters?
There's interest.
So I thought, okay, well, and what are we going to call it? World Series of Speed Quarters. I like the sound of it, but that's a lot of fucking letters. Like, to try to write that out is a lot, right? Yeah. And so I was able to get at Speed Quarters on all the social accounts, which I thought was surprising. And then I thought, okay, well, we've been working on this soccer project, right? So another project we were working on was the National High Stakes League for soccer, the NHSL. And that was soccer where people would buy a franchise, buy a team, and you'd compete in tournaments throughout the year, and then all working your way towards one big cup. And so the cup winners so the first cup would be called the Bay Area Cup in the Bay Area, and you'd eventually play in this big cup. We were going to launch that in 2019, and the idea is, there's a lot of people that want to own lower division soccer teams. They want to have a soccer team that represents their city or their area, but we felt like the current models are a little bit cost prohibitive. Like, you have to travel, and you either have a season that's too long, so you spend too much money traveling, or it's too short, so you can't generate enough money off ticket revenue, and you're forced to focus on ticket sales and sponsorships, which are tough at that level of soccer. You have stadium requirements, which make no sense, and all these random things where, man, can't we just have a system where you could have a good team for the community, right? And they just play. And so if maybe we make it where, okay, you're just going to play in 3 tournaments a year, and you'll have minimal travel costs. We'll play all the tournaments in a shared field, so there's no like just eliminating the hassles of having to draw. And it's not your revenue is not going to come from sponsorships or fans. You could certainly sell sponsorships, but your revenue would come from the cash prize at the end of the tournament.
Yeah.
And so we had, I had met this guy Nick on Twitter, who I had seen had made some like crests for different soccer teams, and so I didn't know him, but I pinged him, and we were working on this league, and so he started building out crests for us for the different Bay Area teams that we thought eventually would have a soccer franchise. And I started thinking about it, and I'm like, oh, why don't we had talked in the past about the National High Stakes League, which is what NHSL stood for, could have multiple sports. It doesn't just have to be soccer. This whole idea of like tournament-based high stakes or money to the winner competitions would work for a number of things. Oh, well, fuck, it would work for Speed Quarters. So why don't we take the NHSL crest and just put it next to Speed Quarters? So we did that, and okay, well, what about, the soccer thing was going to have a relatively high barrier to entry at the beginning. It was going to be like we hadn't just figured it out, but $25,000 or something, $50,000 to buy a team. And then with a big cash prize at the end. Well, what if we used Speed Quarters for two things? One, Speed Quarters, and two, to test that whole format and how that would work. And we came in with a lower franchise fee, right? Say we had a franchise fee that's under $5,000. Who knows? It could be as low as $1,000, or it could be as high as $5,000. Whatever that number is, it hasn't been defined. And then you just, we have to make the rules now because we're creating a sport, right? So you have to make rules. So I said, okay, well, let's do. If we had a league and we decided we'll have X amount of tournaments throughout the season, we'll start with the Bay Area. So all the teams are close. So it'll be easy to drive. It'll be easy to meet in a common area, whether it's our studio or different bars and restaurants.
Yeah.
If we limit it to 16 teams initially, then if there's 4 players per team, we can have a 64-person tournament. So we can have 8 tables of 8 people each. The winner of each table advance to the final table. And there we go. We got it 8 on 8. And we could, and then we could have, in parallel, we could have some head-to-head play. So maybe you've got a team of, it'll either be 5 or 6 on a team, but say it's 5 of us, and we're like, Dennis gets a little rattled when the quarter's coming around the table towards him, but when he's not under pressure, he cannot fucking miss. Well, then Dennis would be hey, you go being our head-to-head guy, right? So each tournament would have like the gameplay, and then there'd also be a separate head-to-head thing going on. And we figure out a point system and blah, blah, blah. I thought, okay, that seems attainable. And there's not many expenses for the person, the team buying in. And B, if we were to expand and have tournaments around the country, it's not cost prohibitive for a team of 4 or a team of 5 to fly somewhere and just play.
Yeah.
They don't have many costs during the season. So I just started reaching out, actually, mostly to people we knew, and realized that with a quick, a few phone calls, unofficially, all of a sudden we had like 7 franchises spoken for in the Bay Area.
That's true.
And so like, wait a minute.
That was easy.
It floated the idea of like, hey, this is the concept, this is the thing, this is the prize money, this is basically how it would work. Would you be interested in, knowing, what city the person said? Would you be interested in the franchise for your city? Not everyone said yes, but felt like, wow, okay. Within a couple of days, we got seven teams. Which in theory, as soon as we had 8 teams, we got enough to hold a first event anyway. So that's where we are now. And the next phase is, and then we take the crests, which are being created. Say it's for, say it's for Saratoga Football Club. So it's Saratoga FC. So we either have Saratoga FC that plays in the Speed Quarters tournament, or we just change the crest to Saratoga Sporting Club or Saratoga Quarters Club, right? Yeah. And then so for the person getting the franchise, like they've got a pretty fun thing. They've got their branding and their crest. They've got some merch that'll come with it. And now it's up to them. They just got to go out and find their players. We don't care who you get. I don't know if there's such a thing as a ringer out there in Quarters, but if you can find them, they can be on the
Ukraine or something like that.
Yeah. So now the next step is finalizing. Okay, when is our first event going to be? Whether it's a real event or a test event, what exactly is the franchise fee going to be? What exactly do they get in exchange for that? And then, what exactly are the rules?
Yeah.
And what do we want to test first? Do we want to go for a more social thing in a bar, or do we want to go for the focus is to make it a televised sport? And then how do we create that darts? So you've got two extremes, right? Poker is very quiet and very serious. And I was born in England, and I'm still convinced that you put a British commentator on anything. Like, I remember going to England as a kid and being like, there wasn't very many channels. You turn it on, it's like, what are they playing? They're playing pool. And it was like, he's done it. Look at that. It's just like, it just sounded so fucking legit that you're like, oh my God, did you see the shot? And you're like, I'm going to watch this all the time. You never watch it again. So we picked that too. We're like, okay, so what does this brand mean? Is this brand like darts, where there should be people singing and swaying in the background and cheering loudly? Or is this like poker, where it's more like hush, hush, look at this technique and look at all the pressure here and look what's going on? I think the former, hopefully. But those are the fun things. And then knowing that, hey, whatever we put out is the first thing that's going to create the first impression. So that's my initial reaction was, let's do one this weekend. And then it's like, no, hold on. If you want to have a party once a year, you could do that. But if you want to try to create a sport that, gives off the right first impression, then we need to spend some time thinking about it. And everything, even though it's quarters, we have to treat it as if it's Wimbledon or the NBA Finals, Like, it's got to be serious. Or there's got to be professional, and it's got to have people kind of scratching their head like, I'm watching this fucking thing. It's a drinking game. But it's pretty exciting, and they're taking it very seriously. And do you know what the rules are? And I think I might sign up for this fantasy league.
So when are we going to do the beta test?
I was hoping for June. I thought June would be a good time to aim for it, but it depends on.
That's next month. I'm thinking about it.
No, it's April. It's almost May.
It's almost May.
It depends on. It really depends on which model. It'd be easy to toss one together in a bar, but I think we already kind of know what that looks like. So I think the value might be in filming it and seeing like what do we have there.
Produce it like an actual sporting
event.
event.
In which case we just need to build a little arena, and we need to figure out like time wise, like how is that going to work? How long is it going to take to play? So in that theory we'd have 9 games, right? Because you have 8 tables of 8, and then you have the final table of 8. So we have to have enough time to play those 9 games. I mean, if you sat there and watched, because you might play in the first one, right? You might not play again until the end. It'll be interesting to see, like, I mean, it should be pretty funny.
If you're running 4, now we're just brainstorming, but if you're running 4 and 4, it's not too long of a wait. So you do the 4 tables first, and then the second round of 4 tables. So now you've done your 8, and then
yeah, if you had an arena with 8 tables, but if you just had one, I guess you just have one final table that's like raised up, put some bleachers around it.
Yeah, lights, smoke machine.
2 out of 3.
Coming out of a tunnel.
Yeah. So that's where we are. So it's a ridiculous idea. But
ideas like that early on, you just, you could visualize it in your head. Obviously, you have this super cool like atmosphere that you've created in your mind already. But early on, something like that has X amount of steps, are you just trying to create little like momentum boosts along the way? Like, for example, creating a logo that pushes you towards like thinking about this model or thinking about this next thing or thinking about this next thing, or you're just, I guess you're subconsciously doing that, but as someone who might have an idea out there, is that essentially the process of just keep building momentum towards, that final product?
Yeah, I think it's all trying to like prove that it's real. See if like what you visualize in your head, like the more you can get out of your head into the real world, and it like, oh, that still seems real. And then, I think what's interesting is, I think because it's like, well, why didn't we do this in 2005, right? I mean, fuck, it's 2018.
Yeah.
We could have been pretty far along by now, but it's because it's speed quarters. Like, it sounded like such an absurd thing.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, and so what I find interesting is like speed quarters, Nacheria. They were both like, Nacheria was, 1999 or 2000 was when I thought it was a good idea, but we didn't open it until 2015, 2016.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons finally opened is it just kept coming back as like, I think this is a good idea. It's crazy to think that over a decade, kept thinking every couple of years, every once in a while, something. I still think that's a good idea. So quarters was like, I thought it was a good idea. Now, mind you, I was still at Zappos, so I was like still working, full time on something else. So the idea of like, oh, you know what I should do? I should leave Zappos and I should go
Start speed
I should go drive around the country in a van promoting speed quarters. That seemed like a little far fetched. And I just got married, so it's like, hey, we're gonna go drive around the country in a van. But I just think there's something there, and it just kept reminding me and kept coming back, and like, there's still something there. And then I think as technology's evolved. Think about it. Back then, we had a film crew, and they had to do it. And the only way we could get a copy was from them. And we had phones, but they were nowhere near what they are today. I don't even know when we weren't even taking pictures on them. I think we were using separate cameras to take pictures in 2005, right?
You could, but they were super. I mean, they just lived on the phone, and you never saw them again.
And there was no. Might have been Twitter and Instagram, but it was nothing. It wasn't the same.
Yeah.
And so. Now you think of it and you think, man, we could create good content and we could do this cost effectively, and people are more used to these kind of things. I mean, fantasy sports, for example, that didn't exist that much back then. So, anything where you're going to kind of do tongue in cheek with something that's established has to be established before you can do it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's still a semi ridiculous idea. Like someone say, well, what's the big plan? Okay, well, or how could it turn into something big? Well, the way it would turn into something big would be if either your franchises kept going up in value, and so the prize money kept going up, and then there was demand, and you said, I'm going to keep this small, but we want more and more people competing for these teams. Or I think the more logical thing is you just grow regional tournaments. Like, it's not a spectator sport, so you don't have the requirements of like, oh man, like, we can't put two of these close together. Like, in theory, there's an infinite amount of people that could, register to be, official World Series or Speed Quarters NHSL players, right?
Yeah.
And then there's infinite amount of tournaments. There could be tournaments going on every day somewhere around the country, every week at different college campuses or different cities or different anywhere. Right, all working towards this qualify. So it'd be complicated. And this is by no means like I don't want people to think these guys are fucking delusional. It's not like you think like, oh, this can be the NFL. But why not? Why couldn't it be something where it's an actual business?
Yeah.
So an actual business doesn't mean it has to be worth $1 billion. It just means an actual business that employs people, is entertaining, and makes some profit. Like that could be. I think that's attainable.
Yeah.
But it's all about execution and creating the sport, like so people, it's appealing.
Yeah.
Um,
Are you gonna? How long? You have a game plan on how long you want to pursue it, or are you just gonna keep going until the response? See how the response is.
Well, I think we get the first franchises sold, and then we've got 16 teams, and then I think at minimum you do a quarterly tournament between those teams.
Yeah.
And then you'd probably take those tournaments and cut them up into different episodes, right? So each tournament could, in theory, be... Because I don't think people necessarily want to sit there and watch 3 hours of speed quarters, right? But if you've got 8 tables, you could every day put out a video of, like, the one table, and then, here's the winner. Stay tuned tomorrow. See the next qualifier. I don't know, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
We'll figure it out.
Wing, I don't see anything that would come up that would stop us from trying an event. Because A, we've already done an event, and it was fun. And B, there's no big expenses involved. So it's just a matter of time right now. So we don't have enough people right now to... We don't have any extra people to focus exclusively on this, which again is always the challenge of working on a bunch of things. Like, I think the same thing I thought in 2005. Hey, if we would have hired a crew of college kids to get tournaments established throughout the country at different schools and set up leagues and conferences, I think Southern California Speeds Quarters League, fuck, if you were on the UCSB team, you went down to play UCLA and San Diego State and stuff like that. That would have been great. You know, they do it for volleyball. You're just hitting a ball over a net. This one, you're just bouncing a quarter over a glass net into a cup.
Can't beat that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking something through, just because you mentioned it before, but not just, well, maybe the timing isn't right for an idea, but it doesn't mean that it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
Right? So, you haven't, but in 2005, perhaps it wasn't the right time to try to scale it the way that you wanted to, but if you do believe in the idea and you come back to it years later, you could find yourself in a much better, environment for it.
Yeah, I mean, in 2005, we had to go to Fox Sports and try to get it on TV because that was how you would get people around the country to watch it. Yeah. And now we can just
put it on YouTube
or put it on Twitter, Instagram or something. Yeah. People can watch it. So, yeah, sometimes you have an idea that, whether it's big or small, just needs, time to catch up and technology to evolve, that all of a sudden makes it like, this is like relatively low risk, at least the proof of concept. And who knows, we could still be on Fox Sports. We prove it ourselves. Mm-hmm. Hey,
I got friends at NBC if you want an introduction.
So,
high stakes league, speed quarters on NBC Sports California.
Yeah. Plus. So anyone out there who thinks they're working on a weird idea or a bad idea, try going around telling your parents or anyone else that you're going to start a speed quarters league.
Look at their face.
But that doesn't mean it's a bad idea. It doesn't mean it's a good idea. It could be a bad idea. It couldn't be a bad idea if your goal is to try something, have some fun, and see what happens. If you had specific goals in mind, then other than that, like you had specific, like it's got to be this big or it's got to have these financial rewards or something, then it could be, you could look back and say that wasn't a very good idea.
Yeah. Unless you're really good at speed quarters and you win all the prize money.
Yeah.
Make it a lucrative career.
So I still struggle with is there an exit plan and how does it scale? But I think even though it's hypothetical and still, it's still speed quarters, I think we're better than it was then of trying to figure out what could a plan be, like you said, a lot of it because of technology. But I guess ultimately it just comes down to something I want to do, and I'm not really afraid of someone laughing and saying, you tried to make fucking speed quarters into a sport?
I was going to ask a similar question because it's, we work for you, so we kind of know of the atmosphere and the environment that we work in. But how do you when you tell the idea to somebody who is not thrilled about it or doesn't seem to react the way, how do you desensitize yourself from letting that person's reaction keep you from actually pursuing the idea? So, I mean, someone out there might be like, oh, I have this great idea that I think is awesome. And then I tell, XYZ person, all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's terrible. Then you kind of go like, oh, man, now I'm not going to do it.
I try to, everyone gets defensive at first. So usually if, you're telling someone something, hoping for them to say it's the greatest idea ever. So I like to talk about the idea, see the reaction, try to figure out if it's like enthusiasm, indifference, or negativity. And then if it's enthusiasm, it's like, okay, cool. That was encouraging. If it's indifference, it's kind of like, is there a reason why they're indifferent? Are most people going to be indifferent to this idea? And if it's negative, my first reaction is defensiveness, whether I verbalize that or not, but I'm getting defensive in my head, or they don't know what they're talking about, or what are you talking about? No, that's not right. But then I try to make sure that even if I don't acknowledge it immediately, that I'm taking away whatever they said. And usually then a little bit later, I'll think about what they said and try to figure out, because there are some ideas where someone points it out and it's like, shit, I hadn't thought about that. And that changes it. So it's no longer worth pursuing because it seems too risky, or someone's already done it, or someone's farther ahead than you, or it would take a lot more resources than you expected, or any number of things that could come up. So I try to make sure that I'm soaking that in and not like ignoring good feedback just because I don't like it. But then that's it. And from there, you either adjust or you feel, better about the idea, or you just kind of keep going. And then it's just weighing up time. Like, and then it's like, what really is the goal, right? Like if I was like, really the goal is, I just haven't had a fucking night out at a bar in a long time, and I just want everyone to get hammered, and I want to see a bunch of people I haven't seen in a long time get wasted, and like that would be fun.
By the way, come to the Hotel Utah.
Yeah, by the time you're listening to this, we won't be able to say that.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
It'll be a second gig though at the Hotel Utah.
That's true.
Date to be announced. It's gonna be such a hit.
Yeah. So I try to make sure I don't have any like, what's my real motive? My wife's really good at like asking me the questions, which will make me realize like why are you really doing this, right? And so if I can still convince myself, no, this is a business idea worth pursuing, then it's just a matter of, okay, well, what else we got going on and where does it fall on the priority list? And then are we ever going to get to it, or do we need to find someone that could prioritize this? And like how much farther along would we get if we found that person? So right now I think Speed Quarters is the point where it's like, yeah, well, you need to find someone who we can just put on this and say, hey, work with us on this, but spend most of your time on it. You can't pull people off other things that are going. It's like I was listening to a podcast with Kevin Durant the other day, and he was talking about, since he came to the Warriors, he's investing in a bunch of businesses and getting really active in growing his family office and all that stuff. But that he understands that basketball's first. Without basketball, none of that other stuff happens, right? The access he gets to things, the ability he has to like move things forward right now are all based on his ability to exposure playing basketball. So he knows that if he stopped playing basketball, some of that stuff goes away. And so it's the same thing, right? We still, you got different ideas, but then you've got things that are already generating revenue, already farther along in that process. And so you can't just, which I used to do, and I still struggle with, of like, ooh, well, this is the new shiny one. So that one's boring now. Let's get rid of that. Let's not focus on that one anymore. Now it's more like, can we add on and add on and add on is kind of the difference. Before it was like, because it would always seem like a negative to be working on so many different things at the same time, that it was always like, well, I'm just trying to figure out which is the one. And then over time you realize, no, there doesn't have to be the one. You just has to be, there can be multiple as long as they're not negatively affecting each other by battling for the same.
Would you say the biggest constraint you have is people?
On that project, yeah.
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 And then time.
But on that one, it's relatively new. All this brainstorming and everything's happened in the last couple of weeks. So now it's getting it all on paper, getting it all, working out all the details so you can bring someone on board and say, here's what it is. Now go do XYZ.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's one business that we're in the process of creating that hopefully in future episodes we'll be talking about its progress and not.
That's profit.
Yeah, whatever happened to that one?
Yeah. In the future, inviting people over to the regional.
Yeah.
Have shirts ready to go, teams.
From the Faded Studios. We're live at the 2074 NHSL Speed Quarters with $2 million in prize money.
Speed Bitcoins.
Yeah. Speed Bitcoins. That's a good idea. So
write that one down.
Anyways, for now that one's in the move forward on pile, and hopefully it'll keep moving forward. Anyone does have a random idea they want us to take a stab at on another episode, go ahead and I don't know how we'd do that. I don't know how we'd get the thing and not see it before we started talking about it. But we record on Thursdays usually. So anyone wants to send us an idea on a Thursday morning,
we'll just build the business plan.
we will work on going through
Brainstorming your business plan.
going through the same process with a random idea. And there's probably some disclaimer we have to put in there, like, hey, we got a whole bunch of ideas, so it's possible you'll send us an idea we're already working on, but
Wink, wink.
yeah, we don't recommend that you don't send us your real idea you're working on. Just send us some random idea all right, fine. How would you guys sell Silly Putty with Dennis's face printed on it?
Oh, I got a million already.
Something like that.
About that one.
That's a normal thing to think when you look at someone, right?
Oh yeah, Putty.
Yeah.
Silly Putty. Yeah.
I wish I could make your face into Silly Putty.
So Anyways, we'll try that in the future if we get any good feedback on this one with the other ideas or companies we're working on. And hopefully that spurred some ideas for someone. So anyways, you can follow us, the Startup Addict on Instagram, Startup_Addict on Twitter, iTunes, the Startup Addict. Please subscribe and share with anyone you can. And one day, if Julio has promised us a URL on YouTube,
Please.
and it hasn't happened. Apparently, we're just not getting people to subscribe to YouTube.
We're climbing.
So I always thought our voices were annoying, but apparently the visual of us is more annoying, and nobody wants to watch that.
That's quite true.
So,
That's quite true.
anyways, thank you.